Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit, live here from E3 2012 in Los Angeles. I'm here with Garrett from 2K. We're going to be talking a little bit about XCOM Enemy Unknown, the revival of the world-famous, and rightly so, turn-based strategy. Welcome.
Hello, how are you doing?
Not too bad at all. Having just seen the presentation for XCOM, looked fairly impressive, but I want to try and get into the nitty-gritty about this game over the next 15 or so minutes. So, many PC gamers, needless to say, remember XCOM very fondly.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how on earth do you take on the challenge of recreating a game that is considered legendary by many people?
Well, absolutely, it's a huge undertaking. I think one thing that we set out to do here is that we have so many big fans, super fans of this game, both at Firaxis and at 2K, and we saw an opportunity here to take this classic gameplay and really bring it forward into the 21st century and bring it to a new age of games and a new set of gamers who may not have ever played it before. And I think it's that really great opportunity to take that classic gameplay and reimagine it as something new and something for a new set of gamers.
Now, one of the first things that I will hear anyone say when I mention XCOM is the idea of the game being atmospheric, highly intimidating in places. Yet, as a turn-based strategy, that doesn't really work in a lot of people's heads. Like, well, how can that be scary? How is a turn-based strategy intimidating and atmospheric? How have you managed to recreate that in the latest version?
Absolutely. So that atmosphere and that feeling of dread and that really feeling of unknown, you don't know what's out there, actually comes from the fact that there's this overwhelming alien force, and you don't really know what they're about. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know, what you're going to find around the next corner. That's what, and also that there's that tension, because at any time one of those aliens could pop up out of nowhere and destroy your most prized soldier, the soldier you spent so much time working on, leveling up, getting them all these great armors and abilities, and they're very, very vulnerable, and death is permanent in this game, so it ratchets up that tension to another level. On top of the fact that there's so much you don't know about, it just leads to this really, really tense and exciting feeling when you're playing the game, and I think that's very much what we wanted to recapture in this game when we set out to make Enemy Unknown, and to do that, we have these large maps with a lot of detail, but when you land on them, you can't see everything. You can't see what's out there. You don't know what's around the next corner. You have to go out and explore and find that sort of stuff. So it does really have that atmospheric feeling of tension and unknown.
Now the question is, you mentioned earlier that you are introducing this to a brand new generation of gamers. I've got to be honest, this is a generation of gamers that is not all that keen on their prized soldier that they've worked 12 plus hours on permanently dying. Have you had to make any concessions for that, or is this something that you're just saying to them, you're going to have to live with this? This is the game that you've picked up and you don't have a choice but to deal with this reality.
Well, I think one thing that this generation of gamers is okay with is a game that's difficult but fair. So if you set up the rules of the game and you convey those rules and make sure that you stick to those rules and that you're not just randomly killing off a soldier for no good reason. Like if a soldier dies, the player knows why they died, and the players know what they can do to prevent that death. So I think that's the way we make those concessions. We keep the game fair. Your soldiers are going to die. You understand this, and you know what you can do to try to limit that. But as long as you understand that, it really, the game takes on another dimension, right? Because it's about that tense survival of mankind against overwhelming odds, and it just really provides, a different feeling that you would, get in another game, in a shooter, for example. Yep. And it's just something that's really unique, and you don't see very many games do these days.
Now, XCOM was a series, as some people sadly don't know, because Enemy Unknown is the one that was most liked, certainly most respected.
Absolutely.
There was, of course, then Terror of the Deep, followed by Apocalypse, and that's something starting to get a little bit weird, followed by Interceptor and Enforcer. There was even then a spin-off, the UFO series, which crossed 3 games.
Yep.
Now, the question is, was anything taken from the rest of the franchise? Were any lessons learned, even from these spin-offs, which weren't even turn-based games?
Certainly there are some lessons learned, especially from UFO Defense and Terror from the Deep. But for the most part, we took our inspiration directly from the original game. And as much as possible, we want to recreate that game and really reimagine that game for the modern day. So, while we have learned a lot of things from the other games in the series, it's much more of a love letter to the fans of the original game, and that's what it's really about.
Now, management was a part of XCOM originally. The idea that in between missions you were actually dealing with managing a base, researching technology, and so on and so forth. How large a factor is this in the new version?
It's just as big a factor. After you go to a mission, you come back to your base, and it's this magnificent ant farm view of a base as you build down and build out in this base. You add facilities to it. It houses your research. It houses your manufacturing. So every time you go on a mission, you'll gather relics. You'll gather materials. You'll bring them back to your base. You research those materials, and you'll combine them into new weapons, new armor. It's a huge part of the game, and management is in fact the way you win the game. Individual battles will help you get resources for that and fuel that research, but the management part is where the strategy truly happens and where you win the game.
Now, interception is included in this particular version of the game. Have any changes been made to that particular system?
The interception game is a new version for this title. It shares a lot of things in common with the original. It's a light, quick simulation of interception, and we didn't want to go overboard and provide a 3D jet fighting simulation or something like that. XCOM has always been about the tactics, about the strategy. So we want interception to be there. We want it to be something interactive, but we want something to be quick and get it over with so you can get back to the tactic to the game.
Now, when it comes down to the tactical combat, are there any new features that players can look forward to actually experiencing when it comes to movements and actions that their soldiers can take?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest changes is that we moved to a class-based system in Enemy Unknown. And the reason why we've done that is it allows you to add a lot of abilities and cool things that your soldier can do. And not only are the abilities cool, but also the way they interact with the other classes, and the way you have this emergent tactical series of options that you can explore with all these abilities, with these different classes. I mean, it really provides a rich tactical landscape with which to engage these aliens, and with massive and really cool abilities all their own.
Now, one of those cool abilities we did see was the ability to actually fly. We were able to take it to the skies with a suit of armor called Archangel.
Yes.
What exactly does that add to it from a strategic point of view?
Well, what it makes the gameplay do is move into 3 dimensions, right? And there's some elements of 3-dimensional play throughout XCOM Enemy Unknown. You can move up to the rooftops. You can move up through different levels of a building, and so there's always that element of 3-dimensional play. But what the Archangel suit does is really give you freedom to explore that in any way you want. You don't have a good rooftop perch to put your sniper on. Just stick an Archangel on him and jack him up in the sky 30 feet, and all of a sudden you have this great perch to shoot enemies from. It really provides a lot of new options that you didn't have before you researched this particular suit of armor.
Now, the original XCOM was somewhat ahead of its time because it actually featured terrain destruction, the ability to blow through walls. Are we going to be seeing a return to that?
Absolutely. Virtually everything in each of the levels of XCOM is destroyable. Any piece of cover that you can take cover behind may very well be destroyed by a well-placed shot by enemy, by nearby explosion. So not only is the cover very important in the game, but it's very dynamic, and so at one moment that cover could be there for you, and the next moment it could be gone. You can take advantage of that for yourself. If there's a couple enemies hiding in a building and you can't get to them easy, you just blow the front off the building. All of a sudden you got great shots on all these enemies. So it provides a really rich and dynamic environment to play this tactical combat in.
Now, the last question is perhaps the most difficult, because this is such a series that's been held up with reverence. What is the thing you are most concerned with when it comes to how this is going to be received by the veteran players?
That's a really good question. I think there's a lot of things to be concerned with, and we have been paying attention to the community as we've been releasing information about this game, and the response has been encouraging, but it's also been a little bit challenging, because you ask 15 XCOM fans what their favorite thing is about XCOM, you'll probably get 20 different answers. Right, and it's with a game that's so complicated, so well loved, and has so many different things in it, so many different really well-designed elements. It's hard to pick out a single element this is XCOM. This is the most important thing. So what we try to do is recapture as many of those elements as we can. But throughout the course of development, I don't think we could recapture all of them. So what we really try to do is identify those most important elements, recapture those, so that every XCOM fan that plays it is going to immediately recognize it as an XCOM game.
Okay, Garrett, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, XCOM here from E3 2012. My name has been Total Biscuit, and I will see you next time.